Hello, everybody, and welcome back for another episode of TFT Study Hall with your hosts. My name is Frodan.
And I'm Dishsoap.
And we are back for the 13.3 patch, just ahead of the Tactician's Cup. This is one of the two big events, the big competitive events of the season. Dishsoap's hard at work preparing for it, climbing the snapshots and getting ready. Dishsoap, how are you feeling the week of? Actually, how was your new year first? And then how do you feel going to this week's competition?
I mean, I didn't do anything for New Year's, all good. But I'm feeling good for this competition. Feel pretty confident in this. I think I'm going to do well.
All right. This patch is really interesting. I think a lot of people are talking about how, and right out the gates, there are no S tier comps. Everyone's talking about, is this like the most balanced patch that TFT maybe has ever seen? I'm not sure if I would say that, but it definitely feels like it's pretty good balance state, especially for this early in the set.
Yeah, okay, so it is fairly balanced. I would say it's an above average balanced patch, but I think a lot of the reason that nothing is an S tier is not because nothing in this game is that strong. It's just that for stuff to be strong, you have to I guess get luckier than average, because a lot of these comps are kind of gated behind 5 costs and emblems to be good. And yeah, you can rank them when you have those conditions, but that doesn't really feel fair, because if you're actually trying to decide on early game what you should commit to, you can't really have that knowledge in your head. So it's a little sus that way. For example, the Sentinel Heimer Corgi line is amazing if you can play around Rumble and Jace late game, but if you're stuck on 8 and hit one of those on 8 and have to go 9 and 5-5 or something, you can easily just bleed out to a fourth or a fifth. Same thing with Enforcers. If you get stuck on Vi 1 and you can't go 9 for Kate and stuff, you're gonna be out of luck. If you're Ambushers and you can't find the 5th Ambusher, it gets a lot weaker. If you're Twitch, you can't find all of the 5 costs or the Warwick or something, it's gonna be rough as well. So you could argue that's just TFT, and there should be S tier comps, because if that stuff does happen in those comps, they're very strong. I just think that you have to kind of rank them on an average, and on average, I don't really think there's anything that consistent.
Okay. Do you think it's fair to say that it's a skill expressive patch then? Because what you're describing is how well you play even stage 2 and 3 can set you up for success for stage 4 and onwards.
Yeah, the way I put it makes it sound like I think this is a luck patch, but I guess it's somewhat the opposite, because I think that you have much more opportunities to hit the good conditions for your comp if you end up saving HP and have good econ management, which is a really, really big part of TFT skill. So, I mean, it goes both ways. For example, my scores on Enforcer are amazing, but I wouldn't I think most of me doing well on that comp is not from getting lucky on my rolldowns. It's from having really, really strong stage 2 and stage 3 and having HP to be able to sack and stuff.
Yeah, and you look at a lot of people's endgame boards, and you're just wondering, how does it that these people are always getting Enforcer Emblem, the Experiment Emblem, and things like that? Is because they're surviving to put themselves in positions to pick them off the late game carousels and things like that, and find a way to achieve the comp's full potential, which I think is going to be one of the big things that we talk about today, which is how to play around some of the early and mid game encounters and some of the dynamics that we're going to be looking for. So let's go ahead. Before we do that, we always want to do a meta analysis and dive in a little bit deeper. So let's go ahead and take a look at the TFTAcademy tier list. All right, so at the very top, we actually had Twitch there for a while, because I think people were just really excited to play Twitch. It was just so bad for a while, or rather inconsistent, and then they basically gave him one of the biggest buffs possible. They took him down from 60 to 40 mana. His DPS increased significantly, so everyone was playing him, so he was kind of on top of the popularity charts. Still is, by the way. I feel like everyone's still jamming Twitch. I think they just want to slam Rage Bait and play Twitch. But now we have Enforcers on top. So, and you talked about your good Enforcer scores. What are 1 or 2 things that you think people are not doing correctly when they're approaching Enforcers as a default line, even without the emblem?
I don't know. I suppose one piece of advice I give is you don't have to play it from only a 4 Enforcer opener, for example, with melee items on Camille, Caitlyn items on Maddie or something. I think it's usually a lot better to just play what you have upgraded. For example, I've strung win streaks together with items on Trundle, for example, especially on stage 2. Trundle's actually pretty nice because he pairs with Stab and eventually Powder and Camille. That's a pretty good opener. But You can also like just play like a Violet item holder. You can do like a Darius item holder or something. Mostly the way I play it is like you play around like Steb plus Bruiser frontline, and then you like find some kind of melee carry that pairs with that, and then try to upgrade your melee carry in the mid game. Make sure you're keeping on top of positioning, because melee positioning even in the early game is like really really important. You don't want to waste that much uptime like walking around and stuff, but you also don't want to take aggro if they have a lot of DPS, so that's something to worry about.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, if you can just like the Maddie is whatever. So if you can just hold like a Maddie 1 or like Maddie pair on bench while you're like streaking around Bruiser plus some kind of melee carry, that's kind of the best spot I think for it. And the board is actually fairly cheap. It's the cheapest level 8 roll down compared to like most of the other 4-cost comps. You're rolling for a bunch of like 1, 2, and 3 costs and like Vi and like another 4-cost that doesn't like Mbessa or like Elise or something, but like those units don't have to be upgraded. The only thing that really matters is the Vi too. So if you can like the comp can like kind of work without an econ augment, which is a benefit. So if you get like good item and combat augments combined with a good early game, sack the econ augment, and then you hit Vi 2 on tempo, you're in an amazing spot and you can just go 9.
One tip I'd like to add on top of that is I think people have started catching on to the fact that Twisted Fate actually is quite a
Yes.
solid carry to play around, and it's actually something that really helps you a lot because if you're looking for all these like swords and bows and gloves, like what do I do with the rods and tears? With the buffs to Twisted Fate, he's become quite a revelation as an item holder and just an extra support DPS to help you stabilize, right? People are thinking, well, if I have Vi, who am I going to do? Does that have to be Echo 2? Does that have to be Mbessa 2? Like you said, 1 star of those versions is fine, and you can just play TF2 Vi 2 and just watch them actually get you straight to 9.
Yeah, I would prefer like it's so much better in this comp to have like Vi items and TF items than like making Caitlyn items and put them on Maddie and just wait for your Caitlyn. Like if you get the Caitlyn, you feel like a genius. But I mean, bro, like who cares? You might as well just make like a blue buff plus some AP items on them, and if you get more items for Caitlyn later, you can transfer the blue buff or something. But otherwise, just keep items on TF.
All right, definitely look out for enforcers. I think it's going to be one of the main compositions that are going to be contested. Once people stop contesting Twitch, I think people are going to be holding a lot of the enforcers as well.
Yeah,
A
but
quick question.
I mean, the issue is if you get stuck on Vi 1, it's like it's Jover. So like I don't know. I'm not trying to like 3 contest this. I don't really think that's a thing. Unfortunately.
Okay.
So we'll see.
What's tricky is that it is kind of hard because if you're slamming the melee items, what's your alternative? Are you going to play emissaries? Like, come on, we moved emissaries really far down for a reason.
I think there is a point in the game where you can stay open between enforcers and ambushers.
Okay.
I've done that a fair bit. Most of the time, I end up sticking with enforcers because usually there's an ambusher player. Like just the way it worked out. Like in my games, there was more ambushers than enforcer players. But yeah.
Well, that's the other comp that's getting a lot of hype as well right now, which is everyone is in love with Smeech. That's right. They're smooching the Smeech. Is the Smeech hype real, or do you think that you're playing more around Echo, or perhaps you're still like old school and you want to play around Camille?
I don't really think you're meant to play around Camille. Camille's like, if you can hit her on like this sounds dumb, but if you can hit Camille 3 on like stage 2, or sorry, not stage 2, stage 3. Sorry, Camille 3 on stage 3, like 3-5 or 3-6, like that's the spot when you do it. Like say you have like 5 Camilles on 3-2, that's really when you would consider. I wouldn't really consider without an excess of copies, because the main benefit of Camille 3 is just keeping you stable until you can find like Echo 2 or something. Whereas like you're probably not going to hit Smeech 3 till like late stage 4, early stage 5, which can definitely delay your Echo compared to like a really, really early Camille. But most of the time, you're not really going to have that many Camilles, so I think the Smeech route is better. Echo 2 is super, super important in the comp, and he like not that uncommonly out damages even Smeech 3. But I don't think that means like you don't need a 3-star to deal with him, because without the 3-star, you run into a lot of issues with like 1v1ing like some drain tanks and like a lot of matchups and stuff. I still think that a 3-star to roll alongside with Echo is really important. Like you can obviously still get a top 4 playing around Echo Primary, especially with like the augment, like the Vi augment. I think that's actually pretty solid.
Reunion.
Yeah, Reunion. I actually think that's
Yeah.
pretty solid. But I think most of the time you really, really want the duo. The two-star
Interesting.
duo.
Interesting.
And I prefer Smeech because I just think he's a lot better than Camille.
Yeah, and he's also a lot easier to hit, especially as more and more people are starting to pick up Echo. You see Echo splashes in a lot of comps. You're also seeing Scrap come into more prominence. So it's gonna be harder to hit Echo, which is surprising because last patch that was actually one of the most free forecasts to play around. Okay, I think it's time we talk about Twitch a little bit. Twitch, is it overhyped? Is it actually fine and people are bad at it, or does this comp actually, actually the hype? So let me know what you think about the Rats. Is he actually good?
I think like by definition he is like 100% overrated right now. Just
The play rate's too high relative to his actual.
His play rate's too high compared to his placement. So like by definition, it kind of has to be overrated / overplayed. Like he's not bad. We have him in A tier for a reason. I feel like the biggest strength of this comp is having like experiments bad on 2-1, which is one of the best win streak openers in the entire game, just because of the power of having like 2 clones really early, and sometimes even 3 clones if you get 5 on stage 3. The Ginsu itemization is also like one of the strongest itemizations you can have early game, which is nice. And I don't know, the board's kind of easy to make. So like those are the positives. The negatives are he's like very reliant on like 2 stars, like 1-star Mundo, 1-star Elise, 1-star Vi, 1-star Twitch. Like you were just going to get 7-0'd every single fight. There's not really any there's not really any 3 costs you can anchor to. Nunu is a pile of complete trash, which is a really big issue in this. And then it's also fairly reliant on like hitting like Jace 1, Caitlyn 1 to like stabilize you, which is a little worse. The Bruiser version, I wouldn't be surprised if it had like a much lower win rate than like the other versions, but like a better top 4 rate and maybe even a better AVP.
I think it does.
Because the Bruiser version is like magnitudes cheaper than the other version, and it's actually stable on 1 stars because you can like because if you have like a board of like Set 2, Steb 2, Rennie 2, Nunu 2, Mundo 1, like you actually have a good front line compared to like if you have like Nunu 2, Mundo 1, at least 1, you're fucked. So I think the Bruiser version is cheaper and easier to stabilize, which is but the thing is like that's like a Bruiser emblem thing, so it's like another
right. It's another condition that feels difficult. But I have seen the Bruisers be very consistent. One thing that's pretty interesting is that Warwick got buffed a lot, and Warwick's actually quite powerful in either versions. I've also seen people actually put Warwick 1 over Mundo with the Bruiser emblem. So like they sell their Mundo too, because a lot of people just have caught on that Mundo is not that reliable. You put Warwick 1 with the Bruiser emblem and just give him items, and he becomes the main Bruiser tag, which is really fascinating. And it actually popped off in some EU scrims today. What do you think about that?
That makes sense. I never really thought about it, mostly because I don't think I've hit.
Oh, your Future's not that good. You haven't hit Warwick. Got it.
yeah. But no, that sounds correct for sure. That definitely sounds correct to me. But yeah, I don't know. Twitch is weird. I think like you get baited a lot of time by having like a strong early game based star on like Ginsu, because there's like a lot of really strong early games based star on Twitch itemization, and then you load up into your 4-1 roll down, or like your 4-2 roll down, and if it doesn't go like absolutely amazingly, you're gonna be really sad. Even if it does go amazingly, like it's still possible to just go like 4th or 5th. Just because sometimes you just get out capped and can't do damage. I don't know. I've seen this comp flounder a lot recently.
Yeah. It's a very familiar position for a lot of people. They're doing really well. 80 something HP going to stage 4. They roll Twitch 1, Mundo 1, lose the first half of stage 4, hit Twitch 2, Mundo 2, kind of fumble to 9. And then you're like, okay, I roll, I hit Caitlyn Jace, and then you just like win, lose, and then you're like 4th. It's like that. That's just like what the comp does a lot of times. So definitely, I think it's a composition that also people want to explore. I think there's a little bit of debate about what's the actual package. Is it supposed to always be set 5 experiment, especially if you don't have emblem? There are other things you need to do. So the jury's out on that. There's some people in the lab right now about it. Okay, another couple lines we can talk about, some safe default lines. We talked about this in our meta read newsletter about some lines that you can default, and Scrap and Academy are two lines that people are playing now without necessarily hitting like the emblems or anything specific for it. Which of these lines do you like better, if any?
I think usually Academy is more consistent than Scrap. Both of them play around Corki, which is a note. I think both these comps are like kind of reliant on Corki being very strong. But I generally prefer Academy. Honestly, these comps are very similar. They both play around Corki, and they're both item agnostic, meaning like they can use both AP and AD components very well. But I'd say I'd like slightly prefer Academy because to me, I think Scrap is very reliant on its augments instead. I think it really wants something that either like makes their shields stronger or gives them like a bunch of shield. For example, it really likes Trait Tracker, not just for like if you hit on your emblems, it's good, but like you just take it for like how many is it? Like 6 emblems. You just take it for like the 12 components, and that just beefs up your scrap shield. Same thing with a movable object. Just give a bunch of R1MR to your shields. Powered shield, kind of the same thing. Just anything that gives you like a more components than normal or like can buff up your shields makes this comp a lot stronger, in my opinion. If you hit on your rolldown super well, you can definitely just you can succeed on the default, but you need your augments to be good to be consistent with it. I think the Academy comp is much more like not augment based, more just like unit and other stuff based.
You said you're playing around Corki. Are you ever playing around like the AP and Heimer variations? If it's a good academy for it, I mean, are you looking for that at all? It's not that consistent of a unit.
I mean, I'll give Heimer items for sure, but like I've more recently just been like not really prioritizing Heimer at all because the comp plays 3 AD carries and 2 AP carries, but one of them is like Rumble, and Rumble can use a lot different itemization than Heimer. So it's I've definitely been slumming AD items in that line more.
Fair enough. Fair enough. One little small thing that I started doing with Academy is when there was like a Jewel Gauntlet IE. There's like an Academy that has Jewel Gauntlet IE. There's one augment that got buffed this patch called Flurry of Blows. It gives you more of that crit chance, and it felt really good actually because you want to kind of stack the IEs anyways and get all the crit stuff. So I did that one game and I like cleared everything. I was just like straight up like everything had 50 damage amp and I was just destroying everything. It was crazy.
I have a question. What is Flurry of Blows?
That is the Zeke's augment that gives you extra crit chance.
My analysis on that is I think the one's not that good in this.
Oh, interesting. So it's not as good in the crit thing.
I've done that in the exact setup, and the conclusion I came to is that these units don't want attack speed that much, so I think it's still bad.
Oh, interesting.
Compared to other stuff, like
I had like 5 Infinity Edges and stuff like that, so it was just that too much damage. But I was like,
maybe it's too much. Great. But like I played a game like with your like kind of your exact setup. I don't think I had like 5 IEs, but like all of my units can crit, for example. And I think I had like Lotus, and it was like Guard Breaker, and I had a Scoreboard Scrapper, so I thought I was going to have infinite damage. And so like I had Lotus, the Zeke's augment, Scoreboard Scrapper. I thought everything would just blow up, and then I just died. Like I hit everything, I died.
Interesting.
I mean, I started the game on like super low HP, and I like basically hit my board on 1 life, but like I thought I would literally be unbeatable. And then like I thought about it, it's like Corki doesn't really want attack speed, Heimer doesn't want attack speed. Jace is like whatever. Like only unit that really
wants that kind of
only unit that you would actually like want a normal Zeke's is like Ezreal. So I came to the conclusion that it's actually not that good.
Interesting. Okay. Well, 2 different conclusions. We'll probably have to see more of it in order to get an actual good read on it. Okay, the last of the compositions, we got some stuff that feels a little bit like situational dependent. Let's talk about sorcerers, actually. A lot of people love sorcerers. We can get the emblem. And 8 sorcerers got buffed like crazy. 150 AP, man, on top of an actual status debuff for the enemy. And then you mark on top of it that, Zoe's not really that contested. If you can hit the top end, people are really impressed by it. And then you also get people who are like, dude, if you need a sorcerer emblem, you know what you could always do? You could do Calling Card on Nami. You get the sorcerer +1. I get that every single time I'm in the sorcerer line for it. Talk to me about sorcerers, Dishsoap.
Bro, it's always like these like clueless players that like either like okay, it's not exactly that like their fault. It's like you need to like be like pretty in the know in the patch notes to like see this. But they made like anomalies are not forcible. So any strategy relying around like forcing an anomaly is just like inherently like uncompetitive. But like, yeah, I get suggestions all the time to like force this one anomaly because it would be so broken in my spot or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. The conclusion I came with Sorks is that it's very, very strong, but I think it's like a comp you really want to play ahead of tempo and win streak with. I don't really think it's something that it's like you get the +1 and then you win out. I mean, I'm certain that can happen. Like if you just high roll like at least 2 LeBlanc on your roll down, like that definitely could happen. But the most of the times I've seen it actually succeed is just like playing around like the 2-star 1-cost Sorks early, getting like a Swain in the mid game, and just like pushing off of that. And then like in that spot, like you don't actually need emblem and like go to 8th. Like it's like really good if you can get it, but not completely necessary. But then in those spots, I've seen Sorks do really, really well. In spots where you're just playing around emblem, but you don't really have the upgrades, you can't really win streak. You're basically playing a lottery. And even if you do hit LeBlanc, you're probably like so far behind you can still bot 4. I've seen that happen many times. Like 8 Sork just going 5th because they can't go 9, for example. They spent all their gold rolling for the 1 LeBlanc, and that's just a little sus. I also think the emblem, like if you're playing 6 Sork on 8 and you have an emblem, like the board is so trash. Like you just can't even fit anything good. So like Loki, it's better to like not have the emblem if you're only playing 6, and I think the stats support that as well. But
Well, your front line is just generally gonna still be pretty terrible if you're stuck
yeah,
on 8. But yeah, I've seen people play from ahead. I know a lot of people still actually really like to play around even Swain too. They somehow make it work with their front line, but they're willing to play 6 with the emblem and then throw more front line and actually carry Swain. And then as the time moves on, they get LeBlanc. They'll transfer over because again, it's not exactly that you're going to roll down and hit Zoe 2 every single time. I don't actually know the math behind it, but if you're rolling down on level 8, how much gold on average do you need to like hit a specific 4 cost?
2-star or 1-star?
2-star, right?
Oh, like a way
So
more roll
really
than you
high,
think. Like
like
way more roll
80
than
or
you think.
something like that.
Yeah,
80,
yeah,
90 or something like that to like hit
yeah.
it like 60% of the time, 70% of the time. So it's like if you're rolling for like just sorcerers, which is what that's one of the criticism against this is that you're not really rolling very wide. It's going to be very expensive. So a lot of CN players, for example, right now are playing on Swain and Nami. So just keep an eye out for that. All right, last comp. Let's talk about here in the A tier. Let's talk about Zeri. Zeri's really exciting. It's a new reroll comp. People are playing that over Kog'Maw. 4 Firelight looks really good. What do you think about Zeri?
Yeah, I've seen her do well. I've won a couple games with her myself. With and without anger issues. I think anger issues is like the turbo high roll one, but it can definitely succeed without. To me, this is like the biggest question mark, at least for like my tournament prep. Like I just don't know like when it's actually a Zeri spot versus not. I think it's like pretty important to figure out because like I've seen it do really well, and I've also just seen like a theoretical good spot just like completely flounder and have like not enough damage for late game. So this is not very good analysis from me, but like I legit just don't know. like
Fair enough.
what makes this tick. I have to do some learning on this and following
Well, I think
this.
a couple of things. You mentioned anger issues being one of them. I think that if you have a Firelight start of some kind, that's definitely a good way because 4 Firelight is a huge amount of damage. I think
Yep.
it's 6 autos worth of attack for when you did it, and that's proccing Zeri twice. I've seen her Firelight dash basically burst and then kill the front line and kill the back line at the same time because of the way her ability works by hitting the nearest enemy. So really, really nasty. And then the second thing I want to ask is you're just rolling. Are you always rolling on 6 for Zeri? I know Skarth is a really important part of the composition as well. Some people said maybe go to 7 and roll so that way you get access to Echo as well. If you're playing for 4 Firelight. So are we rolling on 6 or 7?
7 sounds correct to me. You definitely want to spend a fair amount of time on 6 to pick up Zeri plus upgraded frontline. But unless like I don't know, like you probably just slow roll and then like slow 7 on 4 too. Like but you just slow roll above 50 the whole time anyways.
Okay.
That's what I'd say because it has like a similar unit curve that Nocturne did, and I very very often rolled for Nocturne on 7, so I think that kind of makes sense to me.
Okay.
Unless it's
Yep.
like
And
unless it's like like you're like a couple off Zeri, and like Zeri is like the mess, and you're going for like Vander or Vlad 3 or something. Like you can roll on 6 then, but yeah, if you care more about the 3 and 4 costs, you're not really close to those other 2-star watchers, then definitely roll on 7. I think.
For sure, for sure. Another scenario that I've been seeing some people experiment with is actually to go for gold generation through either Gambler's Blade or Mogul's Mail. Actually, Mogul's Mail is something that people have been farming gold with. I'm not sure how good it is. I saw people try it. It seemed like it was farming pretty consistently because fights do drag out really long, especially if you're playing like a Rage Blade Gunblade setup. But it is interesting. I think there's some people experimenting with different ideas with Zeri. Not entirely sure. I think it's gonna be one of those reroll comps that has a lot of room to move up as we continue to figure out and optimize it.
That's interesting you bring that up because I've seen it do well with Collector and not well with the other two.
Interesting.
But like,
Interesting.
I mean, I assume if you're talking about like Mogul's Gamblers, it's from the Prismatic one, right? Because you can't get Collector from that.
Yeah, basically. Like that's like a setup that maybe you can think about. But either way, there's definitely I think there's gonna be some artifact stars that people can think about with Zeri as well. Okay, that's most of the A tier, and we can honestly be here all day. Let's just briefly talk about some things in the rest of the tier list here that maybe you can bring up. So I'm gonna toss it to you first, Dish. So we got B tier, we got some comps in C tier, we even have some situational hero augments and other things like that. Are there any other comps that maybe have your eye that you're like looking at, whether you're interested in it or you think that has potential?
That's a good question because I look at these comps and I have lots of problems with them. I will say that you're probably still meant to play Rebels like from like a Giga Rebel opener, as in like you have like Aurelia 2, Vex 2, and like one of the 2 costs. Like, if you can like open the game with that, I'm pretty sure it's like fine to go into Rebels. I also think Rebel Emblem is like the slightest bit overrated for the line. Like it's good. Like don't get me wrong. If you like see a bunch of like mid augments or you get the opportunity to get it off carousel, you take it. But I actually think there's like a lot of situations where you just straight up skip Rebel Emblem as an augment, especially the prismatic one, because it gives you this JG item, which is not very good, especially on like 2-1. Because like the Rebel Emblem, like it lets you drop a Kali for just some unit, like any like unit you would want, like a LeBlanc or an Echo or like a Victor or whatever, which obviously like is good. Like that is very good, but like you could also just think of it like you can have an Akali plus a like a combat augment, and that like if you take into account like the amount of gold you have to spend to get the other unit, it's like, is that really that big of a spike? I'm mostly talking about like on 4-2, because like on stage 3 it can give you access to 7 rebel early, which is really nice, and on stage 2 it gives you 5 rebel early.
Yeah,
But I do think the emblem is like kind of overrated. But I don't know, like this comp, it gives you a good early game, and especially on like econ portals where you can actually just get 9 for free, I think it's like super fine. Outside of econ portals though, it's kind of in the gambling territory because the comp doesn't do anything without Jinx. But I think it is a thing that can be played sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I definitely back you there. I was actually talking about it on my stream a lot today because I said that like I almost feel like too many people watched the famous K3 Soju rant of how Rebels is awful and no one should be playing it. Now everyone just thinks Rebels is like the worst comp ever. And it's not. It was definitely overplayed when it was popular. But like now I think it's like it's an okay comp. And kind of like what you said, like it's actually kind of more of a fast 9 comp than anything else because you really need to hit that Jinx. And if you get everything online, it still works just great, especially if you hit the Victor with it. It's amazing. One comp that I want to highlight, you talk about anger issues. Anger issues got buffed, so I want to talk about some other comps that might be good with anger issues. You mentioned Zeri. I think it's really good with Twitch Bruisers as well because it just makes sense since you're just playing like an infinite stall and it has really good synergy with the resistances. I've seen people do crazy work with it with the Vlad hero augment. I know you're not exactly high on these kinds of things, just because you want to take more consistent lines. But Crimson Pack got buffed. Anger just got buffed. It like won a lobby that I was watching, and it won it by like 60 HP. It was not even close.
Okay, I'm certain it can do well with anger issues, but Frodan. Okay, let me find the screenshot so you can just you can show it on this, because I'm about to show you like the best the best Vlad augment spot of all time. Like, I'm not even kidding.
Okay. Is it your game?
Yes, it is my game. I played
You
this.
took Crimson Pie. Okay, I'm proud of you, man.
Yeah,
That is growth.
I took it. I mean, I took it on the Vi portal where it gives you 2 item levels, so I just got this on 2-1.
Okay.
But yeah, I DM'd it to you. Look at the spot.
All right, give me a sec. Let me open it up here.
Like, look at this spot.
That is Archangel's Gunblade and Rageblade on 3-1. Not bad.
Yeah,
97 HP.
Yeah, Vlad, 4 Vlads, Vlad 2, and a Garen. Guess. And,
Oh.
Okay, I'll give you even more info here. I was 97 HP on Raptors. So on 5-1, I was 90.
Stage 3.
Yes. No. On 5-1, I was 97 HP. Raptors. Stage 4.
Oh, you streaked all the way to until
Yes.
stage 5.
Guess what the placement was?
Uh-oh. Well, the way you're framing it makes me feel like you got like a 4.
Okay, I'm giving it away by the framing, but like, who cares? But guess what the placement is?
I'm gonna guess 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, I did go 3rd, but it was like a 3rd off of like 2 HP. We both died the same turn.
Oh man.
It was.
I mean, it's a hero augment. Like, what else do you want from it, though? I feel like you can't expect that much.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, I'm glad I went 3rd because like if this was like actually. Like I don't know. I think these augments are really annoying when they just win for free. So like I guess I'm glad I went 3rd, but this is literally the best case scenario for the augment. So it means I'm like just probably not gonna take this outside of like component anvil start.
Yeah,
So
fair enough. They did buff it. Did it at least feel better from the buffs?
I mean, it felt pretty good until stage 5 rolled around. It did
Well, I mean,
feel
what were
really
you
good,
losing
and then-
to? What were you losing to?
I lost to Stoneskin Urgots. I killed like 2 units around against that board.
Okay.
It was just completely horrendous against that. And I lost to 6 Scrap. And I lost to Twitch a couple times.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, 3rd is good though.
Yeah, 97 HP on 5-1 into a 3rd.
Apparently, Anger Issues is very good in Violet Family Reroll. Now, my question to that is, how are you ever in that spot unless you somehow YOLO'd a family reroll composition, which, by the way, is very weak right now. So, like, how do you even get into a spot where you have Anger Issues and you just happen to be rerolling Violet anyways? But allegedly, it's quite good because the ultimate for Violet actually triggers Rageblade a handful of times, so you actually stack it up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I kind of I put like this was a couple patches ago. I put Rageblade on Vi, and I think it procs it like 3 or 4 times on the ult, which is like, and then I saw this and it was like, oh wait, is Anger Issues actually good in family? And then it's like, no, it's not, because the augment was just not very good. But after the buff, like I can 100% see it, because like especially when Vi was actually good, like she was actually like the low key broken Rageblade holder, because I think it legit proc like 3 or 4 times on the ult.
I think it's every punch. It's just like the uppercut, right? So it's like every instance counts as an attack. So that stacks so fast, which gives her a burst of stats based off Anger Issues.
Yeah, I've gotten a few 5 streaks off that, but I probably would never be in the spot to actually do that, because I don't think I plan to reroll family a singular time. So
that sounds like a good game plan to me.
That's just me, though.
I've only seen people go bot 4 with it. I have seen one. I mean, I've seen people still like try it, but I've yet to see it succeed beyond like a 4th. Especially, by the way, the nerf to Ultimate Hero, man. I've seen a lot of people take it and they just straight lose 4 rounds in a row and die. Like, it's actually so sad, man. So yeah, I think family is bait for the most part. I think they overdid it personally. I would love for it to still be a comp. I think this is kind of like the bad side of the patch, which is like there's some comps that are just like straight up dead. And I think family is in that category, in my opinion.
I mean, I feel like that comp is just brain dead, so I don't really care. But yeah, I mean, it's probably bad for the game because I'm pretty sure it's like a fan favorite comp. So
I mean, it's because this is Arcane.
Yeah, I know.
This is Arcane.
I mean, I fully expect this comp to get buffed because like the Riot PR team cannot have this happen. But
yes, man, yes. It's like,
I think it's kind of lame, like just how the comp works. But yeah,
are we supposed to be playing set 13 with famous Arcane characters such as Rumble on 8? And
yeah, Rumble is the best part of Arcane.
Yeah, that's right. And Smeech, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, Smeech was actually in Arcane.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, they're not the real. You're not logging on to be like, yeah, I'm about to play like Loris. That's dope. You want to play the stars of Arcane.
You like Smeech?
I mean, Smeech is actually a big chat favorite. I think people like that character.
I mean, I just like the way his name sounds. Kind of fun to just yap.
Yeah. All right, that wraps up our meta section. Check out our tier list if you have any more questions. We're always updating it every single day. TFTAcademy.com/tier list. Let's move on to our second set of topics, which is fact or fraud. Fact or fraud? I threw out some statements about the metagame, and I asked Dishsoap, is it factual or is it fraudulent? Our very first one is something that's being debated a lot in high elo circles. Statement: you should always be popping Artifact Anvil on stage 1-4 before your 2-1 augment. So on Jace's Artifact Anvil, people are popping it in stage 1 right before the augment, as opposed to waiting for the augment and then popping afterwards. Dishsoap, is that fact or fraud?
Well, I think there should be very little always statements in the game. So like the answer truly is going to be like some percentage of the time. And I've mostly felt that like I've popped it after the augment like 80% of the time. The other 20% of the time where I actually pop before the augment is not to like choose a line, it's to like know what I should buy in my shop. Because very often you don't have enough gold to like buy all of the good stuff in the shop, and you like want to know if you should hold like a certain backline over another. And I think the item could be a big decider for that. But in general, I actually do believe that it's better to see augment first, usually. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
I know a lot of other people disagree, but I've like had this opinion the entire time Artifact has been in the game, and I have not really been changed. Like my mind has never really been changed on it. But I think it's I think the times when you do pop before augment, it's to like know what you should buy in your shop specifically.
Yeah. I think it does have a little bit with how you tend to approach playing certain like parts of the patch or even just TFT in general. Some people prefer to pick that item and then force to augment that best matches that item and then kind of hard force a line versus Dishsoap's approach is much more like holistic view of like, I want to see what everyone's playing. I want to pick the best possible AVP from this spot. So a little bit of opposition there because Dishsoap hits rank 1 every single set, basically every patch. Wage and Iverson's rank 1, and he takes the opposite, which is like, I always want the best possible artifact AVP, so I know exactly what augment to take, so I can streamline all my decisions. And Wagen's like, I'm always popping it before the 2-1 augment. So really interesting conversation there, and both players, of course, are elite in their own rights.
Yeah, I just personally disagree, but like it's all good.
I love it. That's what makes TFT interesting, man. You have two players who take it the opposite sides of arguments, and they're both rank 1 and making worlds. All right, statement number 2. Because backline Jace has been nerfed, if you have no items for Jace, you often should be playing Jace in the front line instead. This is because they buffed frontline Jace. They nerfed the crystal, so it's not reviving and giving you attack speed. So some people were talking about it. Is frontline Jace something that you should be playing a lot more often than backline Jace in a no item situation? Just what do you think?
So the thing is with backline Jace, like if we're actually talking no item versus no item, or if like actually like no item versus no item, I actually still think it's backline because I don't think frontline Jace is gonna cast with no items a lot of the time. And like if he's not casting,
Okay.
yeah, I mean at least too often doesn't cast without items.
That's true.
So,
Yeah, no, you're not wrong about that. Yeah.
So in like that scenario, like you should probably still be backlining him. But like if you just have like random leftover trash, like specifically in like Academy, a lot of the time you end up with like extra tank items on like Leona or something. And if you don't really have any way to have like backline Jace items, say like all of your items are on like Corki 2, Heimer 2, you have nothing left over, but you have like I don't know two random ass tank items on Leona, you can swap those from Leona to Jace and frontline him, and it's like fine. It's not amazing though, like it's not that good frontline still, like just for the utility, but it's something you can do. I will say though, like if you actually have like Jace 2 full melee build on him, it is better than some people think. He does a lot of damage, especially against boards that are clumped. Specifically, if you like know your opponent is clumped, you can take advantage of that. But like without like the full melee itemization and 2-star, because the thing is about like all melee units is they're going to be like pretty bad on 1-star just because of how like HP scaling works. He's going to be
when you say melee items, you mean like
the Sterix BT whatever garbage. Yeah.
Okay.
But the thing is, like, you have like usually Rumble to fill that role, so it's like you still just usually backline him anyways. I feel.
When you say clumped, by the way, are you talking like Renata clumped, or are we talking about like the way bruisers put their front line?
Like Renata slash like a lot of times like Urgot clumps as well. I think that's like they want to like frontline their Urgot, and then they put the rest of the team behind their Urgot, and then you have Jace 2. It like knocks the Urgot back into their team and does AoE. I think that's like a spot you can do it.
Oh, okay, okay. I like that. I like that. Interesting. Assume, I mean, that's assuming that Jace doesn't just die immediately because the
Oh
Urgot
yeah,
shoots him.
yeah. That's why it's like it's also unless you have Jace 2. But yeah.
Got it. Got it. Makes sense. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. All right. Statement number 3. Warwick is now strong enough that you often should drop your duo carry with melee items in exchange and just play Warwick instead. That factor fraud.
So I think Warwick is extremely strong. I've actually played him over Victor quite a few times,
Oh,
in a
wow.
lot of different comps,
Okay.
like especially enforcers, because the thing is like you just need the like in enforcers, all you care about is like getting these enforcer procs because you get a bunch of attack speed when you kill the units. Or the best unit to help you do that is usually Warwick and not Victor. So that's like a spot I've done that in. And I think he's really, really good. He's super tanky with his heal, and the execute's really nice. However, I don't actually think he's very good with melee items. I think he is best with, I mean, Edge Knight, like he's good with Edge Knight, that's a melee item, but I think he's best with like tank items. Like I think his business is something
Oh.
really dumb, like Edge Knight Warmogs, like Runons or something. So he like gets maximum uptime on the execute, even though he dashes. Like the Runon still helps trust because like he like sometimes gets stuck in his ult and shit. But
Interesting. Interesting.
but like that's like you're not like you don't have those items in like Mbessa ready to move over, right? So a lot of the times I feel like you do not move the melee items unless like I don't know if it's like Savika 1 and you randomly have items on Savika 1 and Enforcers, like sure, yeah, get out of here. I'm playing Warwick and like I'll maybe move those items over. But if I can find a way to like fit both and like maybe get some items for Warwick off of like anvils later in the game, I think I'd prefer that because I don't actually think Warwick pops off that much with standard melee itemization. I think you just want him to keep him alive for the execute mostly.
Okay. Okay. I've barely played Warwick, but the few times I have, man, that guy felt really good. So
No, like
I'm
like this guy is the true broke it. Victor, I mean Victor's still really good, but like I mean yeah, you should consider playing Warwick. No items on a lot of boards, I'd say.
yes,
Maybe
I
not
agree.
over Victor all of the time, but I will say like his utility is very underrated.
Agreed. Agreed. I'm excited to see where the Warwick ultimately lands because I think a lot of people are still not playing with him enough. All right, last statement factor fraud. When playing build different, you often should be splashing in one emissary for the stats instead of playing 2 out of 1 emissary.
Oh yeah, mostly agreed. It just depends on like the units you have though, because like you're not gonna like if you hit Garen 2 and Bessa 2 on your roll down, which is the only units you should consider for this. If you have the Garen 2 and Bessa 2, like you just play them. But like you don't feel forced to play a no item and Bessa 1 just because you have a Garen 2. It's probably about the same amount of HP to have one emissary in versus BD. But like I mean just depends. Like you can just play either, depending on the upgrades. But I guess like I don't think you should be playing one star emissaries in order to get the BD buff, I'd say. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
either or is fine.
All right. I think that's well said. And I actually, believe it or not, the stats actually back that up as well. If you go into the Explorer, you filter out everything except for one emissary. And you look at it, one emissary actually looks quite good in the comp. So just food for thought for anybody who's like a stat feed that misses augment stats, like me. Actually, quick random aside, just as a heat check or status check, how do you feel about no stats, like no augment stats, now that we're like a month and a half into the set?
I mean, I like it for a selfish reason because I feel like I can actually like I feel like I'm actually pretty good at analyzing how good an augment is, and I don't think other people are. But like I say that and people are gonna be like, oh, like of course you do. You play like 50 hours a day. You're gonna know everything. We have
50 hours a day.
and we have to work 8 days a week. We can't play TFT. So
Yeah.
like no, of course you're gonna know more than us. And I mean, I feel like that's like I don't know. I feel like that's like a skill that matters in a game that is skill based, which is how I feel. Most people are gonna be salty at that. So it is what it is.
No, I got your back. I think for some people whose intuition about like what can be strong and not gets rewarded, but I do understand why. I mean, I just like looking at the numbers. I think they're interesting. I think it also makes preparing the podcast a lot easier. By the way, really fun.
I will bring up Mort's dog. I think he like leaked some augment stats. Not really. It's not really leaking because it's
Wait,
from Mort.
really?
Yeah, he said that power up was a 4.7 on 3-2.
Oh,
Or at least that's what Twitch chat said. Maybe he actually didn't. I don't know. I saw a bunch of people in Twitch chat repeating that. I didn't actually watch Mort when he said that. So this is hearsay. Maybe I'm not
interesting. I didn't
100%
hear
in the
that.
know.
But that sounds right to me because I feel like people just pick power up just because they think it's a fun augment. I don't even know.
No. The analysis on this augment is like people actually think it's like really, really broken on 3-2. But then like
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
and then like I've like always been of the mind that it was like extremely, extremely overrated, and that like being down even like a silver augment on stage 3 is kind of big, or like being down a silver augment the whole game is big. I think it's like always been terrible on 2-1. I think it's like probably a 4.8, 4.9 on 2-1 because like if you upgrade into a gold augment, you instantly lose the game, or you're instantly in a bad position. Rather, you don't instantly lose the game, you can hit some garbage. But on 3-2, if you take it, you're always guaranteed a prismatic, and like that sounds broken to people like most of the time. But if you actually go and like in theory like combine like any silver augment with a gold augment and pretend it's a prismatic, and then like it's not even like the diff is not even that much, and sometimes the silver plus gold is even better. And then if you like take into account the fact that you'll like play a few rounds with the extra silver, I think that makes sense why power up is underwhelming. And that's like how I thought about it, and I just felt vindicated when Mort Dog said that like, oh, it's a 4.7, and that's kind of how I thought about it. So I'm like, oh damn, I might be pretty good at analyzing augments.
Yeah, I mean that sounds all great, world champ, but I got you in check. I'm about to hit you with one.
Okay, sorry.
Beggars can be choosers. Power up into anger issues on 4-2.
I literally did that. Like that's
you did that?
Yeah,
oh,
that was my third game of the patch.
Oh man.
So
I felt
so the thing is about like augment, like even though I know an augment is bad on average, like it's definitely still a skill to like know when you should take bad augments. So in that spot, I took beggars can be choosers because it was loot sub. In loot sub, beggars can be choosers is a lot better because you can easily fish for +2s all the time because it drops you a spat, and then also you can like fish for like artifact exodias a lot of the time as well sometimes. So like that's kind of what I was like looking for with beggars can be choosers. And then on 3-2, it was another silver, and then I saw someone like took power up. I scouted around. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll just dig for power up, and then I'll get anger issues. And then that's exactly what happened. And then I won.
What the heck? I thought I was clever, man. You had me in check the whole time.
Yeah, no, I think it was my second game of the patch.
Ah, jeez. All right. Well,
but I haven't done it since. So like, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't have taken beggars if it wasn't loot sub though, because I don't think that augment's that good.
That augment's hard to play. That is like, it's actually so telling that the average placement of that augment has always been bad. It's never been good. I think it's a high skill augment because people end up not actually using the rerolls very well. I
only take it on specifically something like I take it on the thing that gives you it's usually just loot sub or artifact anvil, like something that like forces you into a line where getting like some kind of augment / +1 is very good.
Well, again, that's going to be our main topic for today, playing around something like the encounters. So we're going to get to that. But very quickly, we're going to wrap up Factor Fraud and drop Professor Dishsoap into a pop quiz.
Okay. Time for me to look less smart.
Let's see how you do. Pop quiz is very stats driven. How are we feeling this week?
I'm not gonna lie, I have not looked at the stats that much this patch. So
okay. Yeah. Well, as you know, we ease our way into it. I give you a couple of ones that are pretty simple. So we're gonna start off pretty light. Question number 1. What is currently the best radiant item in AVP? Just straight up, without filtering anything.
Okay, this is the one I randomly know. I believe unless it's like changed in 2 days, I think it's Shiv. Because of I think it's because like the popularity of Sorks, because it's like very, very good in that comp because it has a lot of backline excess. So the Shiv damage you do is really good. But it might be one of the anti-heal ones as well. Like it's possible it shifted back. But I'm just gonna assume it's Shiv.
Shiv is correct, and you are also doubly correct because it's fantastic in Sork. It's also very commonly played as a setup for when you play quality for quantity, and so it ends up getting a lot of buff in that setup as well. So really nice call. So, all right, there you go, man. You know a thing or two. All right, question number 2. You might know part of this. I'm curious if you know the other parts. What are currently the top 3 trait unlock augments that are averaging around the same thing, 4.0 to 4.1? There's 3 trait augments. So, for example, you get the
Yeah,
4 or
I
5
know there. I'm
augments.
just trying
Okay.
to pull up.
There's 8 of them,
Um,
I believe. So, 3 of
yeah,
them average basically 4.0 to 4.1 right now in terms of raw EVP. What are they?
pull them up on TFT Academy. I think the best one right now is actually Reunion because of Echo Buff. So I think that's number 1. I think number 2 is Martial Law because of Enforcers. I think 3 is Menaces because the other ones are terrible.
That is exactly correct. 1, 2, 3, right on the dot. Nicely done. Menaces, not something people don't play around Soko very much. We actually even talk about in the meta section. Is this something that you've taken or you've been willing to take, even though like Black Rose line got a lot weaker?
I think if you have Soko items, it's still pretty good actually. Just because I don't know, it's also like somewhat a little bit better because you can play like Echo in this comp and it's actually okay, but I don't know. It just gives you a lot of power on stage 3 because it gives you the Silco and like Silco with items on stage 3, even Silco 1's very good, and then it makes Powder do like 4K a fight. I think it was very 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 good when like it was more of a Silco meta, but after like that comp kind of fell off, it's like this augment, it's not like an instant pick anymore. But if you are randomly playing around Shojin Nashers or something, it's I still think this is a good take.
Yeah, and it's I mean you get a Silco on stage 3 and kind of like a Dominator emblem, not really, but yeah, it's definitely still pretty solid. Nice, well done, 2 for 2, Dishsoap. Let's see if you can get number 3. What 3-star unit has the worst AVP in the game? What's the worst 3-star unit in the
All right,
game right now?
this one I'm not gonna get, but we will try. I don't often look at the worst stuff. I usually try to look at the stuff, the
The
best stuff,
best.
because
Well, I mean, the best
that's like what
three
I want to play.
stars,
Yeah.
also equally
Yeah,
useless.
also equally useless to know. That is true.
I can give you a hint, but it's not a helpful hint.
Is it a 1 cost?
It's a 1 cost. I mean,
Okay,
it shouldn't be a 2 cost.
I am leaning heavily towards Morgana, I think, but I don't know if that's actually correct because of the weaknesses of the Black Rose line. That's kind of where I'm leaning. Let me just do another check. I don't think it's Violet because even though I don't like Family Rule, I don't think it's like the worst thing in the world. Zyra's good. It could be Vex, but I feel like if you get like worth the weight Vex into Rebels, I would rather have that than like worth the weight Morgana into Black Rose, for example. Trundle's trolling is very good. Steb, I think Steb's hero augment's pretty good as well. Is it randomly singed? I don't think so because one of the cash outs just gives us Singe 3, and that probably skews it pretty high. But he did get nerfed pretty hard, and Renata sucks. But like Renata sucking like makes Morgana worse as well. So I doubt it's singed, but I actually wouldn't be completely surprised if it was. Powder, same thing with family, but like you can hit like sometimes you just go for Powder 3 and ambusher comp, like if you just randomly hit it. So it's like I don't think so. Maddie, not good, but like sometimes you can take betrayal from like a good spot. The trade augment, it's like okay. If you're playing vertical enforcer, it's not amazing, but it's like okay. It's not Lux. Lux is good. Aurelia is pretty bad, but like the hero augments, like you can top 4 with it. So not Aurelia. Could be Draven. But the thing is, like I think Draven like saves you enough HP that you don't go 8th. And like he still plays in family. Like I don't know. Like maybe it's not good. I don't think it's the bottom. Darius is good, and Amumu. He's playing Zeri. So I'm between Morgana, Singe, and like Loki Vex, and just to me, I think Morgana's the worst unit out of those. So I'm gonna guess Morgana.
All right. Morgana is up there, but she's not the worst. The
Okay.
worst is, drum roll, it's Violet.
Oh,
Violet
that's
is the worst, and almost at every rank too. The only
okay.
rank where it's not, I think, is GM plus, where it's like barely Lux.
That is actually
Um,
that is actually extremely surprising because like I've always felt that family was like terrible, but it's always like done well in the stats, and I don't even think they changed that much about family this patch. Besides just like I think they changed like some of the units it gives from the emblem or something. That's like the only like the emblem augment, but that's like the only change,
they
right?
nerfed trench coat, and they took away
Oh no,
Dark Alley
trench coat.
dealings as well, and
Okay.
artifactory.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Maybe that's enough to affect the AVP, I guess. But yeah, I've always like felt like it's been like really really bad. But then like you just look at like like all these average placements, even up to like GM plus, and it's still like, oh, it does like okay. So like how? But I've always felt like it's bad. So kind of interesting that the stats are finally catching up.
I actually have one more theory that just came off the top of my head. They also nerfed Ultimate Hero, so you might die with
Okay.
Violet 3 waiting for Violet 4, which might actually incidentally drag down the stats as well. All right, good try though. Good try. I loved your reasoning through it, and I mean, Morgana. Let's make one thing clear: Morgana 3 is not that great.
No.
Okay, next question. The best 3 artifacts in AVP right now. I'll give you 2 of them. You tell me number 3. And they all average about the same thing, about 4.1. One of them is Manazane. One of them is Zonia's Paradox. What is number 3? It's like a 3-horse race for number 1 in artifact AVP.
I think it's the Light Shield Crest. That's my guess.
Okay, locking in Light Shield Crest.
Let me make sure it's the one that like gives like 55 and then shields. Yeah, it is Light Shield Crest. That's my guess.
Okay, that is not correct, but it is high up there. Actually, it's number 5.
Okay.
Number 5. Number 3 is Spectral Cutlass. Spectral Cutlass is really high. And I think it's actually, I think I DM'd or talked to you about this before, which is like Spectral Cutlass is like really good in the stats, but is it actually that good, or is it just kind of punishing people for their positioning? Which
it gives a lot of base stats. I believe it's 40, 40, 40, and then like 20 crit. I mean, I'm looking. It's that. It gives a lot of base stats. So it's like it's basically it just spawns in like a fully stacked Titans. The thing is, it does like make your unit take aggro. So if it can't like out heal / like aggro drop, it might be in trouble. But it does give like a bunch of stats like really early. I do think this augment is like a little inflated in the AVP. I think it's a good item. I think it should be picked from a fair amount of spots. But I don't think it's like one of the best in the game because like people on average are extremely lazy, and even in my challenger lobbies, they do not scout this thing, and then I just get rounds for free. And like you could argue that like if I'm not getting it, if they're not scouting in my challenger game, like they're definitely not going to be scouting like for the average player's game. So like maybe it does deserve this broken rating. But I feel like if your opponent actually knows it's coming, it's quite easy to play around, because one thing about this is they learn from hackers. So this Spectral Cutlass item, when it jumps in, it won't target the backline. It'll target the I don't know how exactly it works, but what has worked for me is that it'll target the furthest unit up in its range. So
you say up, do you mean like above the hex?
Yeah, it won't target back row. It'll like if you have like a unit on like the row above the back row, it'll target that.
If it'll target something in the second row, like B or C row. Interesting.
So if you're like really worried about it hitting the corner, you can just like you don't even have to like clump or anything. You can legit just put one unit on top of your like one unit like to like the left or right of your carry, like up and to the left or right.
Interesting. Okay.
And then it targets them. The issue is if that unit dies too fast, it can still go in your carry, but if you put something relatively tanky, it won't. Like I've often used like Vlad 2 as a bait in that example. But if you send
something like bottom left, you mean B1, like 2 hexes above.
Yeah.
It'll just teleport in that corner and then it'll aim.
It'll aim up.
Cool. Oh, interesting. That's good tech. I didn't know that.
But the thing is, like, if you like cut this on something that is AoE, like Mbessa does like a little AoE on first cast. Darius like is actually very good because he just does full AoE and he wants to get targeted, and then it makes everything target the unit. I know this is like kind of a Leduc meme thing, but like I actually think if you have like a 5 Darius opener on 2-1, you get this from the Anvil, you can actually play Darius reroll. It's actually not that bad. It's actually not that bad.
Okay. All right. I love that. Leduc tech actually is pretty good. He actually has a lot of other tech out there that I've tried has not worked out. So I'm always interested in the tech that does work.
But yeah, you just put this on like your Smeech, your like if you're tempo, you can put on like Vi.
Fascinating. Okay.
It's not bad.
All right. I love that. A little knowledge drop. Okay, this last question, I'd be surprised if you get this, man, but maybe you're just a beast. All right, last question. There's only a single 5-cost 3-star whose win rate is less than 90%. There's one 5-cost whose 3-star win rate is less than 90%. Who is it?
That is crazy. I would have no idea. I'm going to assume less than not. Okay, because the thing. Okay, I saw there was like a clip where like Caitlyn lost to Lux, but he had like no sniper in. He had no nothing in. Like no sniper, no enforcer, and he lost to like lone hero Lux. But like surely like normally it beats it. I mean I have no idea what the strength of these 5 costs are. Yeah, I don't know, Caitlyn. Whatever.
You're gonna
'Cause I
rip it,
saw, I,
Galen? All right, I'm gonna
yeah.
show it to you on screen.
Okay.
The answer is Jace.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy? Jace has a lower than that. Silco 3 has a higher win rate than Jace 3. That's crazy to me.
Okay.
I had no idea.
That actually is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure the viewers are like, "No shit, Jace is like the worst one. Everyone knows that."
Yeah.
But,
If you gave me 5 guesses, I probably still would have gotten it wrong.
yeah.
Absolute wild stuff.
I mean, when you actually get Jace 3, because you could like splash this unit on any board, so it's not
Yeah,
really one you can go for.
I actually don't even think I've seen Jace 3. I think I've seen like everything else, but I don't know if I've seen Jace 3 before. All right. Good pop quiz, Dishsoap. I think you did really well. Let's go ahead and finish this out with our main topic. Talk about encounters and how to play around it for set 13. So let's just go through them and one by one, kind of talk about how either of us are approaching, or just like how we should be thinking about it, and if it changes anything, if at all. It could just be like, well, nothing really changes. We can definitely talk about that. So let's start off with the baseline, the no encounter. How do you approach no encounter that might be different from other games, though?
This kind of, it's not exactly for no encounter, like just no encounter. It also applies to stuff that doesn't give gold. But I think on no encounter, econ and item augments go up. Specifically, like on 2-1. Like the way I think about it, just baseline in TFT. Like this is kind of a rule I have for myself. Is like if you have a win streak opener, you really want an item augment, and if you don't have a win streak opener, you really want an econ augment, because those are just the because if you have like a strong opener with an item augment, you can like win streak, and that can like play into your econ. But if you can't really force a win streak, getting an econ augment's going to be very important to have enough gold for a reliable roll down. So that's kind of how I feel about it baseline. That doesn't really change that much on a lot of these portals outside of like the ones that give you infinite gold, like Crabrave or like Gold Sub, I guess. But yeah, just
Okay.
yeah, you want like an item. You want item augment if you have a really strong win streak, and you want econ if you don't.
If you don't get a single econ augment on 2-1, are you more open to lose streaking for the econ at that point, or like, and you don't have a board that you feel like you can like win streak with an item tempo? Like, how do you approach that situation?
What you should do is you should just be holding like infinite pairs. This is usually what I do in a spot like that. Is I just hold infinite pairs and try to get like a late stage 2, early stage 3 spike, because I don't believe without an econ augment, you like even with loose streaking, you're gonna have enough HP / gold to do a good roll down. So in that spot, I stack even more econ to like hold like a strong opener and try to like slingshot out of like slingshot into a win streak spot, and that's how I usually come back. And then like you just hope for a lot of gold on Krugs, and that doesn't happen. You just hope for 3-2 econ augment.
Would you favor playing like Conkers a little bit more at all in these kinds of situations with no encounter and no gold encounters?
So the problem with that is that if you're doing that, you probably don't have like if you have a Conquer board that can kill units, you can probably play for a win streak. But if you have a Conquer board that can't kill units, your board is going to be really bad, because this Draven primary, no Draven items is completely horrendous. You're like hoping to kill like one around or something, and then that just takes you so long to farm the stuff. I've like done what you said for like the 2 gold, but it comes like in the middle of stage 3, and like what's the point? You could rather just save like 4 HP or something. But like,
got it.
by like
It's
holding,
not worth it.
like, you'd rather just save 4 HP and then like hold like a better opener that you can actually get some value out of in the mid game.
Yeah, maybe win 2 rounds, get that 2 gold that way.
Yeah. Like I think if you end up like holding everything, a lot of the time you can slingshot into a win streak stage 3, which is really the only way you're gonna make it out of that spot, because not having econ 2-1 is just like a horrible spot that you need like something to go well. So you want to set yourself up to like get bailed out, kind of.
Okay, understood. Okay, let's go to the other extreme. Let's talk about Caitlyn, which is gold subscription. You get a lot of gold at the beginning of each stage. How does that change approach, if any?
There are quite a few augments in the game that are considered as econ augments, but they don't give you raw gold. Rather, they just give you a bonus that like kind of scales off of your gold. Like the prime example of this is level up, because it gives you a bonus when you spend gold on leveling. So if you have more gold, the augment's going to get more value. So stuff like that is going to be better. A lot of these are prismatics, because for some reason they just made a bunch of prismatics that just do almost the same thing. But like level up, there's also upward mobility falls in this category. There's the one where you like level, you have to roll. I'm like really bad with augment names.
Dual purpose.
Yeah, dual purpose is part of this. Golden ticket for reroll, even though that augment's like not amazing. You have like hedge fund as well, kind of thing. I think hedge fund's like scales worse than the other ones though, even still. But yeah, augments that like require you to level to get a bonus also get better because it's easier to level. So like all the caretakers get better.
Birthday present.
Yeah.
One of your faves.
Not really. I think that augment has been pretty shit for a while.
Come on, it won you the world championship. It feels like yeah, you have to have a special place in your heart.
You know, I haven't clicked that since Worlds like 2 sets ago. I just think it's been bad for a while.
Sure, but gold subscription could be where birthday present has higher value.
Yeah, if you were to ever click birthday present in a spot, I think you would need an econ portal to justify it.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm probably still not going to take it unless it gets buffed. Yeah, I mean, there's probably more I'm forgetting, but those are like the main ones. It's just stuff that like requires you to spend gold gets better when you have more gold, I suppose.
Does it devalue gold-based augments? Like, for example, does raining gold get worse when you're on gold subscription?
I think so, because usually the benefits of like that kind of stuff is like being able to make your first econ intervals earlier, and in portals like this, it's pretty easy to make all of the early intervals. And the difference between like making 0 gold and making 10 gold is much more than the difference between making 10 and making 20, in my opinion. So yeah. I think it does devalue those augments.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the finance world has solved that hundreds of years, millennia ago. So I think you're entirely correct. Okay, let's talk about the prismatic augments. So there's like Heimer that gives you prismatic prelude and finale, and then Echo, which gives you prismatic party. Does our approach change at all when we know that there's going to be a lot of prismatic augments?
I don't really know. I feel like I should know, but I kind of don't. I will say that I have personally felt that like there are some comps that like prismatics and some that don't. Specifically, the one that like stands out in my mind that like really doesn't like prismatics at all is Sentinels. I think the prismatics on average for that comp are like quite bad. Outside of like early game ones that like can set your game up, giving you like decent econ and items, like it's good. But like on 3-2 and 4-2, you're taking probably something that's pretty mid. So if you like know, specifically if you know it's gonna be prismatic last in like party or the Heimer one, I try to steer away from Sentinels. But like thing is like sometimes your spot's just like a Sentinel spot. So like I mean I don't know.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. I think Scrap usually gets a little bit better in prismatics because like there's just a lot of stuff that gives you just a bunch of components. Also, movable object is kind of insane in that line. But I don't really know if it's
someone
like that better.
I saw them say Sword Overflow and Wand Overflow and a movable object, and they won the game. They just
you can
take a million components.
You can take the 5 component one. You can take buried treasures. Like flexible 2-1's actually pretty good for that. Even if your emblems are trash, you just play Scrap. You get like a bunch of extra component value, and then you get a movable. So like those are 2 examples of comps that do better or worse. I'm sure you could like do analysis on every single comp in the game. I haven't yet, but I know like those are very specific examples where that is true.
I want to say one thing about anything that opens prismatic. I think people are sometimes really careless about how they play stage 2 because they're not like cognizant of how crazy stage 2 can be, especially if they're playing like going long or if someone takes at what cost. People are just like level 5, level 6. I see some people still throw their game completely away because they're like, oh my god, let's just say like you said Sentinel. So if you get like Academy plus 1, like, oh, I'm just gonna level to play 4 Academy on 2-1, it's crazy. And then they blow up their game on the spot literally because they run into like a level 5, level 6 player on 2-1-2-2, and they just can't get the streak going. So just keep that in mind. Stage 2 spikes a lot.
A very specific example of like this is like a known player that plays in tournaments. I'm not gonna like expose them because like they might have just been like half AFK or whatever.
Okay.
But this was like a prismatic opener. They had Exalted Adventure, or sorry, not wait, no, what's it? I think it is Exalted, the 2+ one where you have to like
2-cost duplicator ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had Exalted Adventure. It was like a prismatic opener, and they like leveled on 2-1 for like their board was Trist 1, Urgot 1, 1-star Sentinel, 1-star Sentinel, and like the Exalted was like Trist Leona or something, and they just level on 2-1, and I'm like. I don't know what you expect. This is a full prismatic opener. You're not winning a single round, and then like what do you know? He had the 5 loss, and then like his econ was kind of screwed. He cashed out on like 4-2 and win 7th.
Yeah.
And instead of being able to cash out like earlier without having to go 0 gold.
Yeah.
So
it feels bad. Sometimes it feels like you're just gonna take a huge punishment if you're not opening really strong. But hey, that's what prismatic openers can do. So
yeah, like if you have to take one that like doesn't give you immediate strength and skills, you don't. The worst thing you can do is feel like, oh wow, these guys are so much stronger than me. I have to level to like save some HP. I'm gonna lose it all. No, you can't do that, man. Because like you're gonna lose the game more if you just like level and have no money. You should really only be leveling if you like are confident you can actually win these rounds, which is easier said than done in prismatic opener.
There's a difference between you're going 8th and you are 8th.
Yeah.
So yeah. Locking in the 8th by leveling there is much worse than well, I'm on a path to 8th place. Okay. The Crab Wraith Scuttle Jinx, and I think we can tie this in with sort of what we talked about the gold subscription. So basically, it's the same thing as that, but you get some extra items. Does Crab Wraith Scuttle meaningfully deviate from gold subscription in your approach?
I think correct. Like, okay, I don't remember when I heard this. I feel like it might have been like many sets ago, so it might be different. But I remember hearing that Crab and Scuttle, outside of like when you make it to stage 5 and you actually get like the extra full item anvil, I believe on the Raptors equivalent of those, like on 5-1, you're only up 2 components on average.
Okay, so one extra item.
Yeah, so you're up 1 extra item, which like is relevant, but I don't think it's like I think a lot of people think you get like 4 or 5 extra components or something on Scuttle, but it's like 1 full. It makes in Scuttle specifically, there's a lot more value on like playing towards a board that can actually cap high with a lot of different carries because, especially if you make it to late game, like that's when the extra item stuff kind of starts to matter because you're getting like 2 full things on 2 full anvils on like the dragon or whatever, the dragon crab, the big crab.
The dragon, it's just the crab.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I mean it's the dragon round though.
The dragon crab.
Yeah. So I think playing towards a comp that plays around 5 cost and lots of dual carries is very good in that. I think.
Or if you're playing a composition that is very important for you to get to 9 or to get to the 5 cost. We talk like Rebels, for example. I think Rebels is way better on something like Scuttle Puddle than it is on like no encounter.
But I think like in the other example, like if you're playing a real comp that can't really utilize these 5 costs at all, you're gonna struggle a lot. I think like that's like, I mean, those comps aren't really that meta that much right now, but like when they were, I like heavily avoided them on Scuttle. Maybe like Zeri, for example, is something you can think about this patch, which might be bad on Scuttle because that comp doesn't really play around 5 costs at all, right? So even if you do like end up hitting early Zeri and stuff, like you can still probably top 4, but I don't really ever think you're gonna be playing for like a top 3 position, top 2, because your opponents are just gonna be able to like get to like itemize 5 cost, and eventually that's just gonna outcap you.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I like it. All right, loot subscription. So you hinted at elements of it before. You talked about like this is really good for verticals because you get a lot of random emblems or pans or spatulas, things like that.
Yeah, I think loot subscription and Mel's Blessing are like pretty similar in my mind, as in it's a reward in the future that like can be a list of like a few variables, but like you don't know exactly what it is. But yeah, I do think verticals get a little bit better on that. It can be okay to like commit to a comp that wants like specific artifacts early, but like can be okay default, because if you like end up getting an artifact anvil later on, like you're really happy about it. Like and then like the best is like a comp that's like combines like both of those aspects. So I think like something like Urgot, for example, gets a lot better on stuff like this because it can use a lot of different plus ones. You can use it can use pan, it can use spat, and it can use artifacts. So and then like if you just get extra money or something like that's good, that's pretty good too. So you just want a comp that can like utilize a lot of the extra, like you want comps that can use anvil or artifacts and extra items and what's the word? Plus ones, spats.
Yep.
Pants.
And for the same reason, a lot of people take Wandering Trainer Tower Defense augments a lot
Yep.
more on loot subscription because then you can get the Exodius. That I feel like almost every like Enforcer game, 10 Enforcer game I've ever seen has been like on loot subscription or Trainer Golems, like one of the two. So yeah.
Yeah, I might be outing myself as a high roller. The only time I hit 10 Enforcer was none of that. I just
No, you hit on no encounter. Don't tell me, man.
yeah. Oh no, I no,
Oh,
I don't know if it was no encounter, but it was something minor.
okay,
But
okay.
yeah, I hit it off of I had coronation, and then I just got away.
Oh, I see, I see. Okay,
I
well,
I I, I had coronation +1 from augment, and then I just got you dropped the full enforcer emblem on like wolves, and then my 4/2 is calling card, and I just load up 5/1 10 enforcer.
that's so gross.
Yeah.
5/1 10 enforcer. It's wild.
If you've never had that is like the most broken vertical of all time. I have no
Is
idea
it
what would beat it. I think so.
better than the Stormbringer, like the 10 Eldritch?
Okay, it actually might lose a 10 Eldritch because okay,
Because it has no
maybe
items to
not then.
steal, right?
Yeah, okay, that is true. But the thing is, like, couldn't 10 Eldritch lose to like 3-star 5 costs with items? But like this never loses a 3-star 5 cost with items because it just yoinks it. Maybe it's like a rock paper
Is
scissors
that
thing.
is
I don't
that is
know.
that how it works? Okay, I actually have
I
never
don't know, man. Like I don't
I've
know
never seen
this
10
3-star
enforcer versus
garbage.
3-star 5 cost. That feels like some TikTok content.
No, but like I don't know. 10 Enforcer it just felt like so broken.
Okay. I mean, I trust
Yeah.
you on that one. I've never actually seen 10 enforcer lose, so
I mean, it has
I'm
a better
actually even
AVP than a lot of
baffled that
three.
it can lose.
It has a better AVP than a lot of 3-star 5 costs.
All right,
So
well there you go. It's
yeah.
definitely the best thing in the game. All right, Golden Gala. These are just all gold augments. Does that? I guess one thing that I see people talk about with Golden Gala is that it does make them feel like they can hit like their emblem very much more. So if you're playing like conquerors or enforcers or whatever, and you really need that emblem, it's like increase that chance. Is that true?
Is that true? Because I always like imagine it would be much easier to hit emblem from prismatic because it's a smaller pool, and if there's
Interesting.
like a prismatic +1 and a gold +1, you'd be able to hit your emblem more on prismatic.
I've heard some streamers say exactly what I said, and that's why I was saying, is that actually true? I'm not sure.
I don't know. Like I imagine that is not true, but there might be like some behind the scenes like how augment distribution works that I don't know about. That would make that true. But I just if you look at the amount of augments in each section, I would imagine that is not true.
There is one thing that I liked that I think I like what Replay said is that in Golden Gala, there's a less need in his mind to take econ early in the game because you actually have a lot of 3/2 econ augment opportunities. And so there's less of a burden for you to like feel like, oh my god, if I don't have like an econ setup or I don't have the item setup, like I'm gonna be in big trouble. You actually have a lot more options at 3/2.
Yeah, I think that's like super fair. I think that is actually true, like very true. The thing is, there actually like is a fair amount of prismatic 3/2 econ, but all of them are like terrible except for prismatic pipeline is like the only good one. Invested 3/2 is like it. The thing is, the times when you want a three like you need invested like if you're already making 50, but like if you're already making 50, you probably don't need a prismatic econ 3/2. You'd rather just take something that doesn't lose you infinite HP. So it's like not good there. And then your other option is like Tiniest Titan, which is just completely terrible.
Yeah.
That augment's just been extremely underpowered for a while. And then I think there might be like one more, but I can't remember. I think it's invested Tiniest Titan and Pipeline mostly. But the only good one is Pipeline. And then for silver, they don't really doesn't really give you enough gold to like actually make you come back. Like the best one's like placebo usually, which is like I mean it's 15 gold, pretty good, but like compared to like a gold
Oh,
econ,
you're forgetting my favorite 3/2 silver econ augment.
the one cost one, I like that one.
Restart mission.
Oh yeah, okay. I mean that one that one actually is kind of crazy if you have a
Yeah.
if you don't have to sell that much. But oh, there's also fire sale. Okay, honestly,
Oh God, how do we forget about fire?
yeah. Honestly, these silver eclats are pretty good. But the thing is, like,
Yeah.
I mean, you can miss, and if you miss there, you're
Yeah.
like dead. So
For sure, for sure. I've so a lot of my YouTube guys content, I usually do like here's some recommended augments to get you started, and it's just at the very top is always fire sale, like every single one. That augment is busted. All right, Vi component anvils. We have a few more left. Vi component anvils. I think I've heard you say on stream that you're actually quite bad at this portal.
I don't know if it's like I'm actually bad or if it's like some like mental block or something, but like just based off like my memory, I think this is like by far my lowest placing one, like by far. Like I think it might be like more than like a 1 delta or something, like more than a +1 delta for me
Wow.
on my
Why do you
AVP.
think that is?
I don't even know. I feel like mostly I'm just like setting myself up to fail because I like I see this and I'm like, oh shit, this is my worst portal. Like let me just play like an
Oh,
idiot
you take yourself
subconsciously.
out.
But I don't know. Like I've like coped to myself by like, I mean, this might just be an ego thing, but like I feel like I can play around like shit components better than the average player. So then, like, if the average player gets like good components, then we're like we're closer to an equal footing or something. But like, I'm pretty sure I'm just psyching myself out, or like, I don't even know why, man. But like, I just don't like seeing this one.
So like the theory could be that they greet. So like Bis is so much easier to hit, so there's less edge. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, or something like that. Like, there's
Okay.
less benefit from being able to slam suboptimal items because everyone usually gets optimal items.
Well, a couple things to get you started. I think just mentioned one of them is that I think hero augments are a lot better
Yeah.
on this encounter because if you're playing hero augments, you need to itemize them as soon as possible, which is actually a comment that I get very often whenever I'm playing hero augment. Everyone asks, why not this item instead of that? And the answer is always the same. I'm like, I'm playing a hero augment. I need 3 items on this guy as soon as possible. So component anvils are generally pretty good. And then, of course, if you have like major direction, component anvils can help you get duplicates. It's actually really good for compositions that are heavily dependent on duplicates. So in the past, back when Heimerdinger was really OP with Malzahar, and you needed 3 tiers for like blue buff and archangels, component anvils was much better for that line because you could get duplicate copies of components pretty easily.
Yeah, I think the only times I've clicked on a hero augment this entire set has been on this portal, because I usually don't think it's. I usually think you delay your like 3 item carries like way too long without this portal, but with this portal, like you get it on like Krugs at the latest, which I actually think makes them like a decent bit better. But without it, it's kind of sus.
Well, there's another encounter that I think you should consider. You probably do, but you didn't bring it up. Is Artifact Anvil? I think that's basically another encounter that you play around. We actually made this as the factor fraud. Should you pop the anvil before or after the augment? But a lot of people believe that Artifact Anvil is always slanted towards reroll because you find a really powerful, like low cost unit that's really has good synergy. You're talking about rapid fire cannon, sniper's focus for Nocturne, talking about like trench coat or like Silvermere Dawn for Camille. In your mind, how often do you feel like you're always angling for the rerolls versus just playing a standard tempo line?
So the thing is, like, I think it is slanted towards reroll, but the thing is, like, the rest of the lobby also thinks that as well. And then, like, contesting Nocturne, like, you could probably still top 4, but you're probably not going to go first. Which kind of, I mean, I don't like loading up into the game and like knowing I can't go first. So like, there's a little bit of that. There's like, I mean, most of you are just like scared of getting contested. But like, the thing is, like, if you just play some uncontested forecast comp and then everyone's just like tripping over each other playing some reroll, like, you're gonna place well. I often take specifically Collector, Light Shield, and like Anima Visage. I think are really good to just play into tempo. Light Shield especially is just so good on Sentinels. Yeah, I've had very good success just doing that.
Yeah. I skipped, really sharp ones in the past. It just takes something like Anima Visage early, especially if you have a frontline item like Sunfire to go with it. It's just a free streak. While everyone else is lose streaking to roll down 3-2, and it's just a lot of easy placements. So definitely don't sleep on tempo lines if you see too many people indexing on reroll. All right. We have okay. And Beth said trainer golems. Do we need to talk too much about this? Like what the 3 emblem golem stuff? I have one comment. Scrap actually counts the emblems on the golem. So if you actually have a scrap, consider playing it. It's almost like you have half of a trait tracker. Start things off.
Well, I'll take it a step further. If your emblems are like complete shit and it points you towards some like trash line, like, just play scrap.
Scrap anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because
Okay, I like it.
like it's like the thing still counts with the scrap shield, even though okay, the unit not being a scrap is like a big deal. So like actually having a scrap emblem is
Yes.
way better. But like, okay, let me just look at some random emblems you could get, because like I don't know, some of these are,
Visionary. It's the worst emblem in the game by
yeah,
like
if you
a
get like if you
mile.
get like visionary or something.
Visionary, Dominator, and surprisingly Sentinel is really low, but I think that's because of for a handful of reasons. That's like
Oh
popularity,
yeah,
but also
I think Sentinel emblem is only good on 9, but the thing is, you're not going to go 9 with a Sentinel emblem. Like
yeah.
your board's not going to be good enough, so it's just like a little sus. But yeah, if you roll something like Visionary, Pit Fighter, Sentinel, just play Scrap, right? Like those are 4 of the worst 5 and like things in the game, but all of them, like except for Visionary, can buff Scrap, and then the thing will give you a bigger Scrap shield. But that's like not entirely obvious when you look at Sentinel Pit Fighter, right?
Yeah. Real quick, if it counts for scrap, does it also count for item collector? So does item collector count the emblems on the dummy, the augment?
Item collector is weird as hell. I think it does.
Okay,
But,
so you get plus 3 items.
I don't know. I think item collector is supposed to work on everything, right. But like the item is just
it's inconsistent.
It's the most inconsistent augment in the game.
Okay.
I actually think it might not specifically.
Okay.
But I remember sitting on your co-stream with Mortdog next to me. We're talking about item collector, and this guy just says it works on components, and it does not. It does not work on, like, you can't just rod something and get item collector value. That is not a thing. But he told me it was.
He said it worked on scrap.
Yeah, it also doesn't work on scrap.
Okay. I feel
I don't know. It's probably intended to work. It's probably intended to work on that kind of stuff, but it doesn't.
Maybe that's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, I don't know.
Food for thought.
I feel like that augment you just have to look and see. It's kind of weird.
Victor's Visions. This one gives you 6 costs earlier and higher increased odds. What's the tech for Victor's Visions?
I don't know. Play a comp that like can fit a unit, put a +1 in.
Play more flexible comps.
I mean, like in theory, Twitch is slightly better because you get Warwick easier, and I think Warwick is like such a big spike for that comp. But like, you're like more likely to hit Mel or Victor than Warwick.
Yeah,
because just of how it works. So like, you're not really. I mean, you're gonna see more Victors or you're gonna see more Warwicks than normal, but not like that much degree. Yeah, I'd guess I just say play a comp that can fit a +1, but I think that's like every comp in the game, kind of.
For the most part.
Yeah, I don't really know if that's necessarily great.
And every comp pretty much could use the 6 costs, if not multiple of them. Let me hit you with a suggestion that I heard. There's going to be 2 parts to this. 1, I'm going to hit you with the suggestion, and 2, I want you to guess the rank of the suggestion.
Okay. This is interesting.
So the suggestion is you play a reroll comp, except when you roll down just for the baseline upgrades, right? Let's say you're playing Zeri reroll. So you just roll for Zeri 2 and 1 copy of Scar or whatever. And then you econ back up and you don't slow roll above 50 at all for the rest of stage 3. So that way, when 4-1 comes on, you roll down for inevitably copies 4, 6, 7, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you have a much higher chance of hitting a 6 cost early in stage 4. What do you think?
This is challenge advice because I've like done this on stream like many times.
Oh, okay. Is this? Yeah, it is challenge advice.
I don't know how like good it is though, because like I don't actually remember hitting anything on 4-1.
I know.
But okay.
The math is not favorable to this, but
yeah. I think you should still roll if you have stuff to hit, but like if you literally have nothing to hit, like sure, just wait until 4-1, man. Who cares? Like what if you just hit? But
so is it tech or not tech? What do you think?
I mean, kind of. But the thing is, this was tech at a comp that got like giga nerfed because Renata, like this was actually very good in Renata. I think this is like the best portal for Renata in the game because it didn't give everyone that much like power, and it was way better to just play random Victor, random Mel than a lot of the other, like them playing towards like 6 vision or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like you'd rather just play 4-4 and like 2-6 costs. So like this was one I would like angle Renata on, but they nerfed that comp. And I actually would like roll down on 4-1 for Renata, and then if you get the Mel or the Victor, you're like super happy. But then I mean that comp is just bad now, so like you just have to wait till this comp gets buffed to get to
I see. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
All right, and then last we saved the best for last. Spoils of War Warwick, the Warwick Hunger. where you have a chance of dropping loot on each kill. Talk to me about this portal.
I mean, this is just probably the worst portal in the game, like balance competitive wise. I mean, it's a toss up between this one and like
Even worse than
the
Bessa?
yeah. I think this one actually probably is worse because like the Embessa one, like it is really dumb, but like it's dumb because people could just like probably one or two people could win the game off their emblems. But the thing with the Warwick one is that like half the lobby wins the game off their opener and the other half is just going eighth. And like that's not really the thing with Embessa. Like with Embessa, it's like two people are going first, the rest of the lobby can fight it out for top four. But with Warwick, like it's just like, oh, it's just like a 50-50. Like I don't know, just immediate coin flip as the game starts to who can like actually kill units or not. But I mean, I guess like for actual tips on this one, item augments are the way to make your board the strongest by far on stage 2. Like the Rudon's one is really good. The Bramble one is extremely good.
Yeah.
I mean, the
All
Rebel
that
one's
shimmers
okay.
is always good.
Yeah, just like artifacts, just anything that can get you like a 2-item into a 3-item spike is going to be the best thing you can do on this galaxy because that's just the best way you can get an early game power spike. Outside of that, though, I don't know. It just did you hit a strong board or not? Because like the rest of the lobby is gonna take item augments and click all their upgrades. So like you just gotta hope yours is better. I don't know. Maybe there's some like super secret like stage 3 board that always wins like rounds, so you can roll for that.
Are you
Yeah,
always 5 before the stage 2 carousel on Warwick's Hunger?
I mean, not always, but I mean, if you have a good upgrade and it feels like if it's like the diff in the fight, sure you can.
Okay,
it's perfectly fine to level.
all right.
But I wouldn't say that's an always thing.
Nah, it's that I think there's very few always in TFT, right?
Yeah.
So I think it goes back to that old adage. You have to. It depends. All right, that's a good conclusion. Really meaty topic. Thanks for breaking that down. Appreciate the fans that wanted us to do that. I think that was a good conversation. Let's wrap this up with a couple Q&A and then wrap up this episode. The first one is from Firestorm. There was a Reddit discussion on this, and it was specifically around the use of calling card. When a vertical is really strong, the example that he used was Automata from the previous patch. When is it legitimate to take something like calling card? If it is, like, he used, in this case, it's Automata. Let's just use a different example in this. Let's say like Sorcerer, for example. When is it appropriate to take calling card when a vertical is really powerful that you can capitalize on?
I think it's good to take if like if you get the emblem you want from calling card, or you can guarantee it from like the emissary or like Jace or whatever. I think if that emblem immediately gets you to the highest level of the trait, it is fantastic. Like you should probably like just take it like almost always from that spot. If the emblem, like if you're missing like the 5 cost, for example, or you like don't have like the +2 or whatever, like if you take it and then you still have to get something later, I would probably skip it because you can't really rely on that happening. So that's just kind of how I think about it. There is a specific game I played like my last, I think like a few days ago, where I was playing around Sentinel Heimer, but like I hit Corky too, but I also hit Jace. And this calling card came up. If you put it on Jace, you can immediately get an Academy emblem. And my logic was that like, oh, I don't have this Lux in, but when I go 9 for Lux to fit in 6 Academy, I'm going to be really strong. I have 3 item Corky. I have like Jace, I have Alawi. This is going to be a good game. I'll get a 6 Academy. This is going to be good. And then I kind of realized after the game, I mean, I went fit that game because I think I shouldn't have taken calling card. I should have just taken something that buffed Corky or Alawi. Is like when you're playing around like Corky specifically, like getting the Academy buffs, like the Academy trade up doesn't really matter. Like I would probably only take it like if the emblem put me to 6 immediately on 8, and like I was playing around like Jace primary instead of Corky. That would have been more. That would have been more ideal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't take it and like hope that you're gonna spike off the emblem later. I think you have like when you take it, it has to be an immediate spike because the flip side of this is like if you take a like or like the opportunity cost of taking calling card is that you don't get an anomaly that like immediately spikes your like 2-star carry or your best tank or whatever, which is a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. It's a trade-off that of significant proportions to not have an anomaly. Sometimes the anomaly is worth an item on your carry, and sometimes it's worth an entire augment, depending on like what you end up getting. So it has to be really big payoff. Today I had a game where I had the rumble, so I decided to go for it. I had a tower defense scrap, So guess what? I hit 9 scrap on 8. It was pretty good. Those are the situations I think calling card end up being quite good. But for the most part, I would say that the average emblem, if you're not hitting the vertical, is worse than a single item. So it's like if you're just splashing in a sentinel with your calling card, it's like you got 12 resistances, man. Like nice. Like what does that do for when someone else has something like comeback story and have 30 damage amp on their hyper carry, right? So just factor that in. And then when you start doing the math, it starts to make it really obvious when it's not calling card.
Yeah, I also think it's worth it, like you said, if it's like a 50-50 to like get like your Giga trait that'll probably just instantly win the game.
Yep.
Nice Crab is a good example, but like, I mean, not anymore because they nerfed it, but more realistic was 6 Automata. Like if you already had Automata +1, but like you didn't really have a clear path to go 9 for Mals, I would often just take the 50-50 on this
Yep.
with like whatever version I had, and then like if I hit like 6 Automata's a huge spike, I can stable out off that. Previously when like Black Rose was broken, you could do this with like Cassio or like Morgana, and then like if you're playing Vision or the other or Dominator, because like Black Rose emblem was broken, but Black Rose, it's not worth doing that anymore because just the traits are worse. But that
I
used to
want
be
to
a thing.
say, if you aren't ever in a position where you already have an artillerist emblem, 6 artillerist is very good.
Oh yes, yes, bro. That I get mad at that trait, man.
Tristana is guaranteed.
I think the stats on it are like way worse than I think the trait actually is. I don't really understand why. Every single time I've been against that in game, against like, I mean, the 2 times I've seen it have been against like artillerist Jace with like in like a sentinel setup, which like 6 artillerists it was just broken, even though they
Yep.
didn't have any 3 stars. And then also every single time I've seen Urgot 3 with 6 artillerists, I just immediately lose in 2 seconds. So I don't really understand how that trait like is not
Average like a
a two,
4.2 or something. Yeah.
no, it's a 3.6, but like I feel like it's like
Oh,
a
okay.
true
Okay.
like 2.x, just the way I've seen it
I
in
think that
game.
the emblem itself. Got it.
Oh, the emblem's like whatever, but if you get the 6 artillerists, I think it's like
It's nasty.
it's just
Really
crazy,
nasty.
man. I don't know. I've never seen that not go first in my games.
All right. And then the last question here from Major Chris. He says, I'm new to TFTAcademy Discord looking for some help. His first set he's really been trying to climb. Um, I understand the meta comps and I prefer to play around like 80 emissaries or Black Rose. And it feels like I don't hit on my roll downs half the time and I just bleed out into a top 4 and try to plan around uncontested comps and do his best to scout, but it feels really stuck. So, how do I unhard stuck myself? That's basically his question. How do I get this breakthrough? I watch a lot of streamers, I try to VOD review, but I feel like I'm not taking the correct things. What advice would you give Dishsoap to someone around that tier where they just feel like they're just stuck?
So either this is like an old question, or you might be playing slightly behind meta because those are like the comps that were doing a lot better last patch. I think this patch those comps have like significantly shifted down for like a variety of reasons. So I would maybe like touch up, especially after every new patch, like what comps are doing well after a patch, because that could be pretty important. This game shifts a lot, like every 2 weeks on the patch cycle. So I would make sure you're playing with up to date data. But outside of that, if you feel like you're just missing on your roll downs, it's probably not because like it's probably not a luck thing. It's probably just like you're not managing your econ or your like HP correctly enough. And I guess I would probably suggest to like take more like 2 and econ augments, I guess, if you're like or like or if you're broke already, take like some 3-2 econ augments. Maybe you're not taking those, I'm not sure. Um but yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, yeah. The second thing that I would say is that the roll down at level 8 is way more than just the 4 cost. I think when people say they don't hit, a lot of players that I find when they say they hit or they don't hit, they usually mean the 4 cost. But I've also seen people say, like, I don't get it. I hit my board and they sent me a screenshot and they literally only hit like Twitch 2. And they're like, I hit. I don't, or like, or you know what I mean? That they rolled down for exactly the 1 unit. And it's like, no, you didn't hit at all. You're playing Nunu 1, Urgot 1, like Elise 1, but like it's like your entire board's pretty terrible. But yeah, I guess you hit your carry. And like, yeah, I don't get it. I couldn't go to 9. You're probably not assessing the roll down itself. And I think that's fair, even at the very top level. I mean, Dishsoap, the players even at Dishsoap caliber and lobbies also get the roll down wrong. So don't feel bad about it. But that 4-2 roll down needs to be evaluated from the ground up. Think about not just the 4 cost, but the 2 and 3 costs. They're often the bread and butter of when your roll down goes well, because then you can stabilize around it. We talked about it. Like, why is 6 Bruiser Twitch feels a lot better than Experiment Twitch on the roll down? Because you can play these high quality units for cheaper and not feel like you're bleeding HP simply because you just didn't hit your 2-star 4 cost. There's way more foundational success to your roll down than just going for the 4 cost. And I think that's a really big mistake, especially Emerald and Diamond players make.
Yeah. I think part of this is like the TFT language thing. Like, we tend to call units that like don't get items on our boards that are like 3 cost and lower trait bots. And like that connotation makes it seem like these units are useless and you don't need to upgrade them. But they are not. They are not useless. Like, just having upgrade density on your team means a lot for your like average DPS and like tankiness per fight. Specifically, like this is why, like, specifically last patch, would like at the time when people thought rebels were stronger, people would like I would like comment on my plan for this game. Like, if I would like comment on my plan this game, but like I'd be like, oh, I don't know what to play. Like, this spot's kind of awkward. And then like the number one suggestion every single time I would say that is like, oh, why can't you play rebels? You have rebel items. And I'm like, oh, I don't have a single rebel unit. And they're like, oh, you can just find them later. They're just trait bots. Who cares? But then like the thing is, if you're playing a trait like rebel that buffs your entire board, if you're buffing like a Set 1, a Kali 1, and an Ezreal 1, your board is going to be very, very bad. So like a trait like rebel really wants to be played like the entire game, where you can actually build up on your upgrades. Same with stuff like Sentinels, like the Leona, Relia, Rel 2 stuff, like really, really matters. That stuff's really important. Same thing with like Enforcers with your like Steb 2. Like, you would never like think of like Steb being very, very important in the Enforcer comp because you're never going to itemize them, but like just having an extra like 600 HP on your front line matters. And there's like countless examples of this. So that's like why I like to pair my openers with my comp. A lot of the time I try to get those to match, but it's also why if you like don't have a matching opener, why you would probably have to spend more gold on your Frodan and wouldn't be able to go 9.
Yeah, well said, champ. Well said. And I think that's a perfect way to end this episode. So, man, we did it. Another banger episode. I'm feeling really confident for you and for everyone who's listened to this episode. I think we got a lot of good stuff in there. Next week's, by the way, they're going to release another big patch. So we're going to do another episode after that. And that patch, I think they're going to have some reworks. For example, I don't know if you saw Dishsoap, but they're going to rework Sorcerers and Visionaries.
Yeah, I'm worried about the Sorcerer trade.
Are you?
Yeah, it seems extremely.
I didn't actually look at it, but
they're like toning down the numbers a bit. It's like a 20% decrease instead of a 25 decrease, and they're like removing 15 AP off of 6 Sorc. But basically, they're giving the damage reduction effect from 8 Sorc to 6 Sorc, which is an insanely powerful effect. That is like, it's one of the strongest effects in the game. Like, they're toning it down a bit, but I would not be surprised if like Sorcerer emblem / no emblem is just immediately extremely broken.
okay.
I don't know, because like I don't know how 6 Sorc is going to lose in the mid game, because how are they going to kill Swain if they do 20% less damage? I don't get it.
Probably not at all. I haven't looked at it, but that's all going to be for the next episode. So stay tuned. Wish us luck in the Tactician Cup. And if you guys are either listening to this over audio or watching on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe, or give us a 5-star rating, because that kind of stuff goes a long way for the algorithm. That does it for this episode of TFT Study Hall from Frodan and Dishsoap. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.
See you.